All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the city of Reading, the fourth largest city in the Commonwealth. We're honored and happy to welcome Secretary Patrick McDonnell and everyone to the city of Reading. It's a beautiful day, actually. We're happy to have everyone here, and we're just ready to kick off the Earth Day and all the celebrations. So now, with everyone, please welcome Secretary Patrick McDonnell.
Thank you so much, and good morning, everybody. I am Patrick McDonnell. I'm Secretary of the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection. Real pleasure to be here with you all today. One of the things when I think about the program and the work Reading is doing under our local climate action program is, obviously we come back to climate change as the principal primary driver of what we're trying to impact. And when you think about that, you tend to talk about hundreds of millions of tons of carbon in the atmosphere or sea level rise in these large events. One of the important pieces, though, is this program and this approach, because the way both we experience climate change and the way that we will solve climate change is not at that global scale. It is individual residents, towns, cities, blocks, neighborhoods that have to deal with the adaptation and where the way that we actually solve climate is. So when we started this program back in 2019, Reading was one of the first to step up and say, we are in, we're willing to take this on. And we worked with them on development of greenhouse gas inventory. We worked with them on development of climate action plan, and now I know you'll hear in a little bit some of the work that's going on, for example, with wastewater treatment. When you start talking about it on this city scale, when you start talking about it on this municipal scale, it stops being about millions of tons of carbon and becomes about how do we improve the energy efficiency of our facilities? How do we make sure our residents understand and know, and we can support them as they look at better energy efficiency options, as they think about how they manage stormwater, as they think about all of these core things that we know are really the key part of how we are going to address climate change. One of the key pieces of this program, it really is a great collaboration between the state, using some federal Department of Energy money, working with municipalities, and working with colleges and universities to help support and provide those resources in terms of those action plans, in terms of those inventories of greenhouse gas emissions at that local level. Couldn't be happier than to be here in Reading today, celebrating the fantastic work that has gone on in the city, the fantastic work that is going on across the Commonwealth in terms of all of the approach and ways that, again, on that neighborhood by neighborhood, city by city way that we are addressing climate change. We all have a part to play. I'm so happy that the city of Reading is playing their part. So pleased to be here with you today. And now I'll turn it over to Dolores Martinez with the mayor's office for some remarks. So, Dolores.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. Secretary McDonnell, thank you for coming. We are honored here to have you in the fourth largest city of the Commonwealth. The mayor was unable to be here today and asked me to say a couple of words on his behalf, and it reads as follows. Now I will follow with this statement. My administration has prioritized sustainability by identifying initiatives that demonstrate environmental, social, and financial benefits that will positively impact our residents' quality of life. In 2019, the city joined the local Climate Action Plan program to reduce our greenhouse gas pollution and identify ways to save operational costs for, by example, increasing our energy efficiency, amongst others. We want to ensure that the youth of Reading will have the opportunity to build a hopeful and viable future. My administration is continuing these efforts. Currently, we are passionately advocating to bring passenger rail service back to Reading. initiating a plan that will support a transition to electronic vehicles. We are as well the initial stages of projects that will reduce our energy consumption in city-owned buildings and continue Reading's long transition and commitment to forest and stream restoration and protection. You've probably heard the news that we are starting our own Climate Corp, a group of young adults training for careers in environmental stewardship and based in the Civilian Conservation Corps, a workforce program that made a significant contribution in the 1930s, and we still benefit from this today. The city staff has also done an outstanding job utilizing the training, technical support, and available resources to shape and improve our future. I want to thank Secretary McDonnell for supporting the City of Reading in its transition to become more climate resilient and a regional leader in the renewable energy and sustainability. With that said, we want to remind the community and extend an invitation to everyone to join us this Saturday at our Great American Cleanup and Earth Day celebration here in City Park from 9 a.m. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dolores, and thank you, Secretary McDonnell, for joining us here in Reading and for supporting the LCAP program. I'd like to thank all of you for taking time out of your busy day to join us here today and for pushing Reading to adapt policies and practices that ensure a vibrant and sustainable city. The Local Climate Action Plan program supports the Commonwealth's Climate Action Plan, and these plans provide the framework and the pathway to viable and sustainable future for Pennsylvania communities. My name is Bethany Ayers-Fisher, and I am the Sustainability Manager for the City of Reading. Reading is a member of the first cohort of the LCAP program in Pennsylvania. Under the leadership of former program manager Heidi Kunk and the current program manager Chris Naff, Reading is among the over 60 counties, cities, boroughs, and townships who have joined the program. The LCAP cohort member communities are all committed to doing what they can, where they are, with what they have, to both combat and adapt to climate change. And this goes for the same for Reading. Reading's Climate, Resiliency, and Sustainability Plan, still in draft, is to do what we can, where we are, with what we have, to reduce and eliminate the input of carbon pollution into our atmosphere, to reduce the risks and disruptions that result from climate catastrophes, and to operate our city using the quadruple bottom line principles of purpose, people, planet, and prosperity. So that way we can all ensure the well-being of all of our neighbors, and so our children and grandchildren will have the opportunities and the resources to do the same. Our plan is based on the long legacy of environmental stewardship of our forest and water resources and our tradition of historical preservation, and will help ensure that this legacy survives for many generations to come. Previous generations have tackled issues around air pollution, water pollution, land pollution, and deforestation in order to provide a better environment for future generations. And guess what? Those future generations are us. And our predecessors would be delighted to know that in Reading, their efforts were successful. They built our water infrastructure, which has made diseases like cholera and dysentery a vague memory. They began to replant and protect our forests. They began to restore and protect our streams. They did some really hard work, and so can we. Reading's participation in the LCAP program did not happen by accident. It came from the desire of our community. Community members encouraged, cajoled, and demanded that Reading address the risks from climate change and create a path to become a more viable and sustainable city. In 2018, community members from many backgrounds and organizations came together to form Reading for 100, a commitment to be fossil fuel free for all sectors by 2050. City Council passed the resolution in June of 2019. Resolutions are great, but without support, resources, and a plan, we weren't going to get there. But at the same time, DEP began the Local Climate Action Plan program to support the Commonwealth's Climate Action Plan, and suddenly we had the support and the resources we needed to begin. Our first stakeholder meeting was scheduled for March 12th of 2020, which had to be rescheduled as we were preparing for COVID. So our first stakeholder meetings were held in June of 2020 via Zoom, which was a challenge, as meeting virtually was new to all of us. 6 categories of action were identified, and beginning steps and goals were also identified. These categories include energy and greenhouse gas emissions, water, waste, mobility, public health and quality of life, community and economic development. Community sharettes, both in-person and virtual, and surveys will pick up again this summer. The LCAP program has increased Reading's capacity by providing resources that we would otherwise not have access to. By joining the LCAP program, we now have membership in ICLEI, which is the International Council for Local Government Initiatives, a group of over 1,700 communities worldwide who are developing, sharing, and promoting best practices to face and adapt to our environmental challenges. With the DEP LCAP program support, ICLEI's technical resources, DEP technical support, we have completed our first round of greenhouse gas inventories, which help us identify and quantify our pollution sources, and therefore provide a benchmark metric to monitor our progress. With DEP technical and financial support, we are performing energy audits for many of our city facilities: City Hall, the main branch of Reading Public Library, our wastewater treatment plant, and our other operational buildings, to find ways to reduce our energy use and, more importantly, save money. Speaking of saving money, we are nearing completion of our streetlight replacement project, where we were able to leverage grant money to help us replace our old mercury vapor streetlights with approximately 750 new high-efficiency LED streetlights, which has already reduced our electric bill by $27,000 since implementation in 2020. Although some of our planning activities were paused during COVID, others were able to continue. We have been able to implement our citywide waste initiative, which has ensured that all residents now have the same comprehensive recycling program and trash collection services at a rate that is lower than many of our other municipalities in our area and certainly across the country. There has been a drop in household trash dumping, and we have reduced the trucks on daily routes from 18 to 9, which is reducing air pollution and greenhouse gas pollution. We are also looking at additional services that we can provide to further reduce our landfill trash. We have partnered with the Penn State Sustainability Institute, which matches researchers and students with the municipalities to find answers to our questions, model if our proposed solutions will be effective, and better prepare us for implementation. Because we are part of the LCAP cohort, we are receiving professional leadership training and accreditation through the Pennsylvania Climate Leadership Academy and membership into the Association of Climate Change Professionals, a national cohort of professionals across all sectors who are working on adaptation and mitigation strategies centered on stewardship, justice, and sustainable principles. We are also now part of the Pew 2 and the SWIFT program cohort, led by Heather Crowley, a joint program between the Department of Energy and the DEP Energy Office to find ways to reduce operational costs, reduce emissions, and improve processes at wastewater treatment plants. We have also received training on how to utilize EPA's Energy Star building portfolio tool, which helps us monitor energy and water usage and waste production at facilities. This will also help quantify our savings as we implement changes. This program is free and can be used by businesses and households. Reading is also participating in the EPA's CREATE exercise, which helps us to understand our climate risks to our water infrastructure and what investments will best protect our community. We have received a WalkWorks grant to complete an active transportation plan, which will help us to identify ways that we can make our already walkable city safer and more efficient for all modes of transportation. We are collaborating with our adjoining counties to restore passenger rail service, which will increase our transportation options while reducing pollution. We are also identifying public sites and working with the Reading Parking Authority to install EV charging stations so that all of our residents and visitors can enjoy the benefits of electric vehicles. Back in December, Reading also joined the Delaware River Climate Corps, and receiving funding and technical support to start the Reading Climate Corps, an AmeriCorps program focused on job training for young people for careers in environmental stewardship. The Reading Climate Corps is providing the additional hands needed to steward our incredible environmental assets, providing a pipeline of young people to come into public service sector careers with Public Works and other community partners, and is providing a career pathway for our many young people who didn't even know that this was an option. The Climate Corps is modeled on and inspired by the Civilian Conservation Corps of the 1930s, which Reading is still benefiting from today. And I'm thrilled to be working with the Reading Climate Corps, helping them to build their legacy. The ripple effects of Reading's LCAP participation is far-reaching. The Reading Area Community College, Albright College, and Alvernia University, all based here in Reading, are also working on climate and sustainability plans and are implementing projects to help Reading meet our goals. Our business community is also joining in. Large and small, they are all making changes to reduce their environmental impacts. And our faith community is also leading the way. And whether it's by developing a green team, building community gardens, or by hosting neighborhood cleanups, they are all working to steward our community towards a more sustainable future. To our sister communities, this is really hard work. And the biggest and hardest part is taking that first step. Joining the LCAP is a first big step to addressing your community challenges, figuring out what you can do with what you have, where you are, to provide a livable and viable and prosperous future for your community. And you aren't alone. You have friends who will help you and community members to support you. In conclusion, participation in the LCAP program has allowed Reading to recognize its assets, identify our challenges, and find solution that fits our needs. A plan for a livable, viable, and prosperous future. We are better positioned to advocate for our needs in both Harrisburg and Washington and to leverage the support that is offered to us. We are so grateful for the support from the DEP and the other friends we have met along the way. Climate change is happening now. Energy transition is happening now. And either these changes can happen to us or they can happen by us. And I am both relieved and proud and excited that Reading has decided to lead the change. Secretary McDonnell, thank you for taking the time to come to Reading to recognize Reading's efforts and to help us share our story. We are in the beginning of a long race, and it feels really good to know that we are being supported. To our friends who took the time to come out today, thank you. Thank you for your continued advocacy and participation, and for building the coalitions and the organizations to get the work done. We can't and we won't do it alone. After all, we are each other's neighbors. Thank you. And I'd also like to introduce Stephanie Anderson from Ready for 100, who helped spearhead this whole effort.
Thank you, Bethany. Hi, I'm Stephanie Anderson, and I am a professor at Reading Area Community College, a mother, a writer, and a climate activist. I'm also a member of Reading for 100, one of the local organizations behind the Reading for 100 resolution. But my activism work is relatively new, just within the last 5 years. Before I became involved in organizing for clean energy, I was in a really bad emotional place. I had hoped that major change in energy infrastructure would come down from the top, that we would be saved by the powers that be, that a hero would stop us from destroying ourselves. But by then it was clear to me that was not going to happen soon enough. I was therefore overcome with what we now might call climate anxiety. It was a deep fear for the future of the planet, for my children's future, that manifested in nightmares, depression, panic attacks, and a general sense of despair. According to a recent CNBC article, I'm not alone. More than half of young people all over the world say that their everyday is impacted by climate anxiety. Part of my climate anxiety was about the helplessness I felt. Every day I was reminded about all I loved of this planet, its wild beauty, its people, its secrets, and its promise. And I could think of nothing to stop us from hurtling towards what scientists, with more and more urgency, were telling us was a point of no return. So I just lived every day, trying to imagine climate change away, pretending it wasn't there, and just focusing on my daily list of responsibilities. But this did not work. Almost nothing can make you feel more alone and more desperate than sitting with a sense of doom nobody else is talking about. What inspired me to take action was, at first, my own desperation to just feel better. I read about activists like Wangari Maathai, who recognized the value of even the smallest efforts. She believed in doing the best she could, even if the best she could do was something very small. After all, that one small action can inspire more small actions and then bigger ones. So I worked up some courage. I called up the Sierra Club and said I wanted to help in any way I could. I became a member, helped them manage their social media accounts and their website for a while, and then they offered me this opportunity to lead a grassroots clean energy movement in Reading. I accepted the offer with no real knowledge of energy infrastructure, of how renewable energy worked, what it would take for whole communities to transition to clean energy, or even whether such a transition could change the trajectory we were all on. I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't even really sure what a city council was. So blindly and with earnest persistence, I got to work. I held meetings, served snacks, made flyers, and did a whole lot of listening and learning. I still remember the thoughtful first people who attended those meetings, how much more experience they had than I did, how many questions they had about how we would move forward towards a more sustainable Reading. I still remember the uneasiness I felt over having no answers. I remember the pessimism, the enormity of the path forward, and how monumental our task seemed. But we kept coming, we kept working, and when we worked, other people noticed. And they came, and they worked, and they told others. We grew, we learned from one another, we encouraged one another, and little by little, Reading for 100 became a community effort, one much bigger and more capable than I was alone. Alexander von Humboldt explained that nature, considered rationally, is a unity and diversity phenomena. A harmony blending together all created things, however dissimilar in form and attribute, one great whole animated by the breath of life. Von Humboldt was a German naturalist and explorer, and during his travels through the Americas in the 1800s, he noticed evidence of human-caused climate change. That was more than 200 years ago. The global concern for environmental health that brings us all here today is a critical one, but it is not a novel one. 2 centuries ago, von Humboldt felt the pressing environmental responsibility we all feel today. But the urgency of that responsibility forces us now to take swift action and to do it together, because that is the essential lesson nature offered von Humboldt, and one we honor today, that we must work together. In the phenomena that he studied, the plants and the animals and the geological formations, von Humboldt didn't just see discrete beauty. He saw as well a unified organism, a collective, a commonwealth, if you will, that was the environment, the planet, life reticulate, a network of beings connected in and contributing to common life. His view of life was not dissimilar to our community, to our view of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Since I have been involved in community and climate activism, the climate emergency has not been resolved, but my nightmares have. The severity of my distress has. Alone with our anxiety, helplessness, obstacles, injustices, abilities, we cannot create change, but together, joining our various contributions like pieces of a growing ecosystem, We feel the real strength of a community and the real possibility of change. With this community ecosystem, I helped write the Reading for 100 resolution that committed the city of Reading to 100% clean energy by 2050. And with that community and its incredible energy and dedication, I witnessed Reading's City Council unanimously adopt that resolution on June 24th, 2019. And I now stand with the community of Reading as that resolution fuels the development and implementation of a climate action plan that will make Reading an economically, environmentally, and socially just community, one that is not just the result of a growing web of community members committed to protecting the future of our planet, but also one more city and a growing web of other cities, worldwide, statewide, committed to the same. It is because of Reading that I can offer this good news to you today. You are not alone. We are not alone. There are others who feel the urgency of climate action too, and together as a network of individuals and communities, however dissimilar we may be in form and attribute, we make a harmonious great whole in order to save the very planet that brought us together to begin with. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for coming. Thank you for the speeches, and this concludes the news conference. Thank you. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you, Secretary.
I'm so happy that the city of Reading is playing their part. So pleased to be here with you today. And now I'll turn it over to Dolores Martinez.
And his transition to become more climate resilient and a regional leader in the renewable energy and sustainability.
Children's future that manifested in nightmares, depression, panic attacks, and a community effort, one much bigger and more capable than I was alone.